WrestleMania 36 Night 2 is in the books. History has been made, literally. I'm feeling a little bit emotional right now because I have tickets for this show. I live near Tampa. I used to live in Tampa. I grew up in Tampa. I live near Tampa. And I just keep thinking, like, man, like, that ending with Drew McIntyre kicking Brock Lesnar and becoming the WWE champion, I would have been in a stadium with like 65,000 people and a couple of my really closest friends, and I'd be with them and we'd be celebrating and cheering all night if that was going to be the end of the show, and it probably was going to be the end of the show. And I just feel so... Look, I feel really, really empty because WrestleMania 36 Part 2, right? This whole thing, right? There was a lot of good and a lot of bad. And a lot of the bad is not even WWE's fault. But a lot of the good, I'm going to say this. Let me just say this. I got to give WWE credit because they did the best they could to entertain us. They really, really did in a very dire situation. And I'm really proud of the guys who went out there and worked in front of nobody. And I'm really proud that WWE was able to do the show. Even though I think it should have been postponed, it would have been more meaningful if it was in front of a crowd. Even if it wasn't a stadium, in front of a crowd. I just feel very mixed about the show because now that it's over, right? Now that the show is over, it's like, man, this would have been so much more powerful if it was in front of a crowd. That being said, they did the best they could. I mean, Drew McIntyre and Lesnar was pretty much the same thing as Goldberg versus Braun Strowman last night. Just a bunch of finishers. I'll be honest, in the future, we really have to have more like different kinds of matches. They've been doing this a lot lately with when you have Lesnar and Goldberg around. And I like those guys. I'm not trashing them or anything, but I really want to see more of like more actual wrestling matches in the main event. You know what I'm saying? Like actual great matches, not just like finisher fest and spamming. You know, it worked for Goldberg and Lesnar, but not everybody should be like that. So I'm hoping that when WWE returns to doing regular television and Drew is a champion, I'm hoping that we actually get some good competitive matches. And speaking of which, the opener to this show, WrestleMania 36 Night 2, was actually probably the best match of the whole weekend. And that was the best pure, like, in-ring match was Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Great psychology. Really great psychology in this match. I really enjoyed the story they told. I thought it was fantastic. Charlotte wins with, I guess, the idea being they're going to have her on NXT to compete with AEW and try to swing viewers that way. She's a bigger star than Rhea Ripley is right now. But at the same time, like, Rhea Ripley didn't need to lose so soon. You know what I mean? It's too soon for her to lose. And then Shayna lost too. And Lacey. So the newer NXT call-ups lost to the older NXT call-ups. The Bayley, of course, retained her title later on in the show. So then Alistair Black wrestled Bobby Lashley, and it was actually a pretty decent match with a good story. The story being that so Lashley had him beat with the Dominator. Lana was like, no, go for a spear instead. I don't know why Bobby Lashley would be stupid enough to listen to some chick on the apron who's not even a real manager or even a seasoned wrestler. So he stops the move, goes for the spear, gets caught with the freaking kick to the mouth, and Alistair Black wins. So I guess it's going to sow the seeds for the breakup between Lana and Lashley, which I really don't care about, but it was still a good story. They told a good story. Otis and Dolph Ziggler had the whole purpose of this was to have Otis kiss the girl. Having a short, fat guy kiss a hot girl is always going to be a good thumbs up in my book. Then we have Edge and Randy Orton, which went almost 40 minutes. This match was, okay, I have conflicting feelings about this match. This match would have been a lot better if it was in front of a crowd, like most of these matches, but I also feel like they did what they could, and they basically gave us a tour of the Performance Center. They wrestled all over the Performance Center, brawling everywhere. You could tell watching it there were many different cuts and edits. You can tell, like the way that it was put together, that they definitely did multiple takes on some things. It's easy to tell when they do this kind of stuff. But they fought throughout like the gyms and the offices, the boardrooms, did some really creative stuff. But I do feel the match went a little bit too long. It really did drag a bit. The finish, however, was, I think, perfect. It was brutal. I mean, this was a brutal match for Edge's return. I just wish he would have had a big crowd to come back to. But they did the best they could. It was brutal, though. Edge won with the concerto, which we all thought in the Last Man Standing. And I do feel like this is a good ending to the... This is a good ending to the feud. If this is where the feud ends, I'm fine with it, right? I'm fine with it because I don't know if it will, because they could always come back and keep it going for the summer, but I think it was a good way to end the feud, and I do think that, obviously now going forward, we don't know what's going to happen with WWE. The next pay-per-view is going to be May 10th, which is Money in the Bank, but that show may not happen, or it might be from the Performance Center again. We really don't know what they're going to do, so WWE is kind of in a weird spot. We might actually have a break. We might actually have an off season for wrestling for the first time ever in the history of WWE. They might actually have a temporary off season, not like for a long time, maybe a few months, because there was a conference call that Donald Trump had, the president, with all of the different sports leagues, and he's saying he wants to open up arenas around August. So that would mean that we might not have any true WWE, like true television, like, at arenas and things like that with a crowd until July or August, maybe September, depending on what happens. But the world is constantly changing and things always change, and you know how it is. Then we have like the tag title match and the women's 5-way, which is kind of filler, to be honest. I'm happy that the Street Profits won, and I know that they're going to put Bianca Belair with them, so that's a good fit. And then we got to talk about this. The Firefly Funhouse match. I thought that what they did with AJ Styles and The Undertaker in the Boneyard match, I thought that was something totally different, totally unique, and I actually kind of liked it. I mean, it did remind me a lot of the Matt Hardy stuff. This was like that turned up to 10, but it was different. It was very different. So as different as the Boneyard match was, this was even more different, because this was basically, how can I describe this? Bray Wyatt trapped John Cena in a time warp. I'm not making this up, ladies and gentlemen. He trapped John Cena in a time warp, and they went back in time, and Cena had to go back into his 2002 body and reenact the Ruthless Aggression debut from SmackDown 2002 against Kurt Angle. Bray Wyatt went back to being the Cajun Bray Wyatt. They showed highlights of like both their careers. They had a segment where John Cena joined the NWO and Bray Wyatt was Eric Bischoff, with the whole thing being that Bray Wyatt was trying to tell Cena he should have allowed... I can't even describe this. This has to be seen to be believed. It was like a Clockwork Orange type of stuff. He should have been allowed to become the guy. Like Cena should have moved out of the way and allowed Bray Wyatt to be the guy. Very, very weird stuff, but I gotta say I loved it. They played the Saturday Night's Main Event intro from the 80s and showed like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and, the intro to Saturday Night's Main Event. And me being a kid who's watched wrestling his entire life and lived through all this shit, it was really powerful, but it was awesome. Like, it was just one homage and one Easter egg after another. They had the Vince McMahon puppet saying, "Oh, this is good shit." Like, all these homages and insider kind of things that only the real hardcore fans will understand. I don't see how a kid who's like 10, 11, 12, 13 is going to get half the references here. If you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you'll get it. If you're not, you're going to be confused like crazy. It's already confusing enough without the references, even if you get the references, I'm saying. But that would make it even crazier. I've been very depressed for the past couple of days. A lot of stuff going on in my personal life and in my health. And, the COVID-19 thing is not helping. I'm just being very candid with y'all about this. And this match put a smile on my face. And that's something that I really needed. And Bray Wyatt and John Cena are both guys who are following me on Twitter. And I might send them a DM and thank them for putting on the match and having something that put a smile on my face, because the show was really depressing because I wanted to be there. I had tickets to be there, and it's just never going to happen. And, it would have been a very different show, obviously. We probably wouldn't have had this kind of match. But they did the best they could, and they tried to think outside the box, and that's all you can really ask for. Bray Wyatt won, I guess. I guess it was a weird way of winning, I'm going to tell you that much. Like, he put him in the mandible claw and counted his own 3, and then Cena's body, like, disappeared. It was almost like a Yoda thing. Like, he just disappeared to the ether. Like, is John Cena and AJ Styles dead, bro? Like, this is in WWE canon, of course, not in real life. And then they cut to Titus O'Neil, who's all shocked, and he's like, I don't know what I just saw. I mean, that was... We saw Doctor of Thugonomics, and Cena was like stuck because he had to rhyme. He was forced to rhyme. This is so... I mean, what a strange but awesome match that I'm probably... This is one I'm going to watch over and over again. It wasn't even a wrestling match. It was the best wrestling match that wasn't really a wrestling match. So... and then for the main event, interestingly enough, Paul Heyman did not introduce Lesnar. I mean, it was pretty much what you think, you know, Claymore, click, kick out, Claymore, kick, you know, F5, kick out, you know, Lesnar didn't take off the gloves or anything. I was hoping for a bit more there, but it just, this type of match works better in front of a crowd, point blank, and I was very happy for Drew McIntyre. Like I said, a guy who lost everything and had to climb his way back up to become champion and become the top guy in the business, and he beat Brock Lesnar to do it. You know, I gotta say, I don't know how to rate this show because there are things I loved about this show, but because of Corona, I think we're gonna have to grade it on a curve here. There are things that I felt bad about because it wasn't their fault. Yes, they should have postponed, but I was entertained. That's what I'm going to say. I was entertained by most of it. There was some stuff that was kind of, you know, dragging, but I was entertained for most of it. And we'll probably never get a show like this ever again. Hopefully not, because there are bigger problems in the world right now. People being sick and whatnot because of COVID-19 and us being stuck in the house all day. Or at least, you know, not in the house, but, you know, without being able to go to events and concerts and clubs and comedy shows and, you know, all the things that we do as people. But, like I said, I'm pretty emotional right now because the show's over and it shouldn't have been this way. And I'm happy for Drew McIntyre, but I also feel bad because it should have been in front of people. But at least the good thing is that when he walks out on Raw for the first time with that belt, he'll probably get a monster reaction, and he deserves it. Anyways, WrestleMania 36 Part 2. I gotta say it was a thumbs up overall. Issues here and there, but I can't hate this show. I can't. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you, and we'll talk soon. And don't forget, check out the K-Fabulous Lucha Brothers, KLB. New episode coming later this week about WrestleMania. We're going to review it. Me and Brandon Draven together. We're going to review the whole show, and it should be a good time. Talk to you soon.